again, in math, we could say that the gap is not as huge. I'm just going to keep moving. So let's look at the 8th grade, right? And the 8th grade is a significant grade to look at, because we look at it, the 8th grade, as a predictor of who's going to graduate. Sorry, I think we're actually looking at different slides. I'm sorry. Well, if you move forward to the 8th grade. Okay, thank you. The 8th grade is a significant grade to look at because we look at it as a predictor of graduation rate. And so if we look at research, basically says that if the students are not doing well in the 8th grade and they're not meeting grade level standards by the 8th grade, then their chances of graduating decrease accordingly. And so if we look at the 8th grade again, you see the shift from 2006 to 2008. You see that decline from 63 to 49%. And then you see that for the 8th grade, the performance right now is about 71%. But we should also be concerned about this proficient. It's a high proficient. There are a lot of kids who are high, or that number is high in the proficient column. But then the schools and the parents would need to know, okay, my kid is proficient, great, but how we need to ask the question, how proficient are they? How far are they away from that borderline that is the state defines? And again, if you look at that table by the side, you see that the 20% plus gap. Again, we look at in science for the 8th grade, we see the gap in the number of advanced students. We don't really see the gap in the number of proficient. Okay, I'm going to move on for the sake of time. The last, hold on, next one, please. Next one. All right, so what else does data say, right? And it's not just, now we're going to move away to the general research and the general data. When students are struggling academically and behaviorally in schools, and we see this and we hear it in our communities and our lives, and the kid, the student who's not doing well is discouraged by the family, to just drop out. So if we really want to improve their chances of graduating and pursuing higher education, we need to intervene and not just accept that, okay, this is, that they're failing, and so, let's just, send them to work in the stores or make money and just give up on education. Another important piece of data, excuse me, is that 33% of English language learners manage to graduate from high schools, and we have a high percentage of English language learners in our community, and that's a population that we need to pay attention to and work with the schools to help support. We mentioned that student reading scores can predict graduation, and again, and this is something we probably don't really talk about in our community, but it is something that is of great importance to us. Students who struggle academically, students who struggle behaviorally, are more at risk to using drugs, and I'm not going to say commit suicide. It doesn't happen. It does happen in our community, but it doesn't. It's not a big issue. But I think the use of drugs is probably something we need not neglect. So quickly, what do we need? And I think hopefully it'll come out during the discussions throughout the day and tomorrow. Is next slide. Please, next slide. So what do we need? We need a vision. We need a vision as a community, and we need a belief. We need to believe that all of our students can academically meet the standards and can graduate. But as a community, we need a vision. We need a vision, and that vision basically has to rely on a real partnership between all the stakeholders in the community. And all the stakeholders in the community include the parents, the families, every Yemeni organization, every community leader, every community activist, every mosque, and all the Arab American organizations that exist. And we need to all work in partnership and collaboration to achieve that vision and to achieve that, the goal of universal graduation for every Yemeni American student, because we cannot afford to have a different goal, or a goal that is different from the goal that is set for every American in this society. Thank you.
Before Mariam Mohamed comes up to speak, I'd just like to give you a brief background or a little bit of information about where she comes from and what she's doing. She's actually one of our scholarship recipients for this year's award, which is something that's pretty important to us, because that means that this is one of the students that stands out in our community. She represents the future in the same way that all the students that are sitting out there do. She's also a student from Edsel Ford High School, and she's graduating among the top of her class. If we could have Mariam please step up.
I'm actually here today to talk about one of my own experiences with culture shock. Coming from a family of 9 girls, my new routines in high school was something that my parents were not used to. I wasn't even used to it. In middle school, I would go to school and come home, and that was about it. But in high school, it was very different. I took AP classes, college classes, I joined clubs, I participated in activities, I volunteered at different events. Some of these activities took place not even in Dearborn, it took place in Flint, Michigan, where a 2-hour drive. And sometimes I would have to go to school an hour early for a meeting or a discussion in student council, and then I would have to stay after school for another meeting, and then go home, and then have to come back to school for a late night study session for an AP exam. And this was something that my parents were not used to, and they didn't understand. And I realized that the only way to overcome this challenge was communication. And what I would do is, before I would schedule any classes or join any clubs, I would explain to my parents why I was joining them and what was the purpose of me wanting to be a part of these classes or clubs. And my parents knew that I wasn't just going to school to get a diploma. They knew that I was actually trying to make something better for myself and for my future. And as for after-school meetings and different activities and for late-night study sessions, I would tell my parents where and why and when ahead of time, so that when I went, they already knew, and they weren't afraid for me to go, or they weren't reluctant to let me go. And as of today, I'm happy to say that my parents are very used to me being out and about all the time for school, and they're very proud and happy of everything that I've accomplished. Thank you.
I think it's important for us to realize how essential it is for us to deliver that type of understanding between students and parents. And it's also important for us to realize the value of statistics and numbers that go behind the research that's established in our communities. We're going to go ahead and open the floor to questions for both of these presenters. Shakir will be here, and he'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. And I'm sure that the students will be able to answer some of your questions later on as we're networking throughout the evening. So if you do have questions, please keep them in mind. And if you have questions right now, go ahead and ask them. Does anything come to mind, either regarding statistics or data that was collected or student experiences?
I'm just a little bit concerned about how was the study was done. You said you only chose students from studying school, so how can we generalize that to the whole community, like in Hamtramck, in other cities? Would you have a sample as like random?
Okay, I think I missed a very important point, right? And that is the source of the data. The source of the data is the Michigan Merit Exam. It's an exam that is given by the state. Think of Salina as really the best case scenario. Because if you think about where our other communities exist and live, they, and you could think of that they actually live in districts that are low performing academically. The communities exist in areas that are actually even lower compared to what we've seen in Salina. So we're in the data for example, school in Hamtramck is basically about 48%. So if you compare a school in Hamtramck to the district in Dearborn, you probably would have 30–40% difference. Same thing in Lackawanna, if you compare that. We'd be comparing apples and oranges because we have different states and different exams. But I think we could roughly say that the students in Salina are doing much better, right? Or are in a better situation than almost many Yemeni, than the majority of Yemeni American students. That is a safe statement to say. But this is not data that I sampled or collected. This is data that I basically organized and I accessed through the Michigan State Education Department data.
The main point is that we have, as Yemeni Americans, to be getting used to doing this. We have to start collecting information. We have to collect, numbers. We have to know our own data so that we can build strategies how to change it. We have to be obsessed by these numbers. Why are our children performing below district, below state level? I mean, we as Yemenis have a great, great heritage. We are not stupid people. We are smart. You all know that. So we have to start knowing these numbers. We have to start living with them. And you have to, as a community, you have to start dealing with them so that within 5 to 10 years we can turn it around. It's not, a good position to be in to say that we are below state level in math, in reading, and in science. And this is a start. I think one of the things that our organization is doing is let's be driven by numbers, by statistics, by information, and let's change our situation that way.
Now that we have the data, has the data been presented to the schools or has that been addressed with the schools? And are they identifying the systemic problems that are causing the gap and that are creating these problems or deficiencies? And have they done anything with this?
I think we have not started the conversation. We have started the contact. I don't think we've started the conversation around data. I think the data is the starting point, and the data has been the missing element. Until now, we have actually used a firefighter strategy, right? And the firefighter strategy is to put out fires. So when there's a fight in school and when someone gets suspended, we make an issue of it because we say, this Yemeni student was mistreated or treated unfairly, and we rally the whole community around that issue. And we approach the district or the school and we say we have a problem. But the conversation usually does not go beyond that. The hope is really for this data to initiate a higher level of conversation. A higher level of conversation where when we sit around that table, it's not us against them. It's not us as a community against you as a school administration or a school district. It's all of us around this table as one community trying to address this problem. And so we see it as a starting point, and hopefully it will trigger the right conversation within the community leaders and organizations, so we could have a meaningful dialogue with the school administration and the school district, who would be knowing schools and knowing how they work, would be more than happy to have a meaningful engagement with the community and the parents.
I am Thomas Michai. I am